Welcome to Sports Talking on SWKS Radio. I'm Cray.
I am Phil, and guess what, Phil? The background, or I said Phil, how funny. I said I am Phil, and then I said, guess what, Phil? Like I'm talking to myself. Um, I'm in a different place, Craig. Can you guess where I'm at today?
Well, I know, and you can probably tell by the wall decor, you're in a hotel.
I'm in a hotel. But, this year or this week, I'm not in Las Vegas. I'm not in Washington, D.C. I'm not in Wichita. I'm in Liberal, Kansas.
You really don't stop moving. I mean, think about it. You've been Kansas City again.
Yeah.
Last week you're in Vegas. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And it's a good thing I just have somebody mow my grass kind of permanently. Otherwise, I'd get a notice from the city.
Do you ever get sick of traveling so much?
Define the word sick. What do you mean by that? Tell me.
I mean, just, man, like I got to go here again or I got to go there.
No, I don't get that, but I do. I do know I go a lot. I think I've said this on the broadcast here or on our podcast that I have the same car since 2014, a 2012 Ford Fusion. Sister, maybe a cousin. Yeah, probably a cousin. Different model year compared to yours. But I went over 484,000 miles last week.
I mean, it's crazy. And you've had nothing replaced.
The water
Nothing big
pump
anyway.
and tires, of course. Water pump, tires, and it seemed like one other thing I had to have fixed. But it was like a $200 fix. It wasn't that much.
hmm
Yeah.
So at what point do you say, hey, I need a new vehicle? Or are you just going to run that one until it can't go no more?
I'm not there yet. The goal is a half a million
Okay.
miles in the Ford. But if it's looking good and feeling good at half a million, which is like 16,000 miles left, maybe we'll push that number out to 600. My
I'm
kids
there
are all
usually
mad
with
at
it.
me. They're like, "Oh, Dad, you gotta get a new car." And I'm like, "Why? Why do you think I have to have a new car?"
It's a great question. So if it does go out, I mean, how you've got to have some kind of retirement party for this thing, right?
Yeah. Well, Ford, if you're nice and listening, you can come and talk to me about what you want me to have on the house. I'm looking for on the house deal. But I tell you what, if you're looking for a great car, boy, here's the catch. You got to take care of it. You got to change the oil, change the transmission fluid, change the tires. I think that's the biggest thing is you got to have that oil change and the transmission and the tires change on a regular basis or you're just going to have problems. I have changed the battery, the lights. I had to change a blinker a couple weeks ago. So, my son-in-law, so I said to him, I'm down in Texas one day. This is about 2 months ago, not quite. And I said, I got to change the blinker. My blinker stopped working on the way down. And he looks at me. He just looks at me, Craig. If you could get the full effect of his look, he kind of leans forward and he goes, "You had to change what?" I go, "The blinker. Your blinkers." He goes, "I've never had a car long enough that my blinkers would ever go out." How long does it take for your blinkers to go out? You're just
Yeah.
amazed that would actually be a process that you'd have to replace.
I can't believe it. But I will say, I mean, I've had a Fusion. Me and my twin sister shared that same exact model, that 2012 Ford Fusion. When we
Yep.
first got to high school, we ran that all the way through high school, and we ended up selling that. I got my own car. She bought her own car, and I love that car. I still have a Fusion. I upgraded, got the 2017, and man, beautiful vehicles. It's a
Yeah.
shame they're not making them anymore.
I know, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm mistaken, I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure those cars were made in Kansas City at the Ford plant there.
I think you're right. I
Yeah.
do think you're right.
Well, let's get
Regardless.
on to some sports talking here, Cray. I know we've got a lot going on. We're going to talk a little bit today about the Kentucky Derby. We've got playoff hockey going on, and you want to wrap up from the NFL draft. You got some thoughts on that? So let's start at the end and go with the NFL. Let's go there first.
Yeah, I loved the NFL draft this year, and we can argue about it all you want off a camera, but the NFL draft is the best time of the year for football. I truly believe that. There is nothing
Best time of year, meaning better than the playing season?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, to me, this is where great teams separate themselves from good teams.
They get
Obviously,
better.
the Kansas City Chiefs, look at their dynasty that they had, and look at the Patriots dynasty. They were able to find players in the draft and compete constantly because of how good they were at drafting. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs, honestly, I didn't love their first round. They got Peter Woods, who I absolutely loved, and they moved up for Mansour Delane, which I was on the fence about. Again, I thought when they moved up, they thought Arvell Reese was going to be available. He wasn't. They kind of panic-picked, took their backup option, who was probably going to be there at 9 regardless. In the following rounds, you got Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma, who is one of the best edge rushers in college football, but he's also one of the best pure edge rushers in all of college football. He is just going to get to the quarterback. You know what you're getting with him. You don't really have to develop a guy like this, and he has a motor that doesn't stop. This guy doesn't give up on plays. That's exactly what I love to see. They found some safety help down the board, too. I like it. Jaden out of Oregon, I'm pretty sure it is. Safety corner, they're probably going to run him at nickel, which has been a position of need, and I absolutely love that pick there. He's a little small at 5'10", but at nickel, I don't hate it. And then my favorite pick that the Kansas City Chiefs made wasn't even in the draft, Phil. They go out, they get Jeff Caldwell out of Cincinnati, and this guy is a freak. He's 6'5", runs a 4.3 40.
Wow.
And they got him as a UDFA. 42-inch vertical jump. Wow. 11 feet and 2-inch broad jump. Phil, this guy's a stud, and I like this, finding talent after the draft and hoping you can develop him. It reminds me a lot of what they did just a couple years ago with Justin Ross. Obviously, that didn't work out, but Justin Ross was the same size and ran a 4.6. One thing about Andy Reid is he loves his fast receivers. I think eventually, maybe not this year, but give him a year or two, he's going to find his way onto the football field for this Kansas City Chiefs team.
And he plays wide out?
He plays wide out. It's perfect.
6'5" wide out's tough to cover, no matter how tall you are. Most corners are not 6'5".
Right.
Yeah,
you're 100% right.
That's a tough assignment, I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And a fast guy, yeah.
4.3 40. I mean, he's not slow.
Yeah.
He's definitely on the quicker end.
And the other thing I would say about that, Cray, is I think it's good. I'm a believer in steel sharpens steel. So I think you bring in good guys, it makes the guys that are already on the roster practice a little harder.
I 100% agree. And that's what they need is they need leadership and practice. They need guys to step up. Love him or hate him, Travis Kelce, if you look back in the last couple of years, has been getting into fist fights in practice. And a lot of people will look at that and say bad leadership. No, I think that shows just how badly he wants to win.
I think he's telling those young kids, I'm still the old man, and I'll take you out anyway.
And I love that from Travis Kelce. I really do. Phil, another team that I thought did great later in the draft, the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones did a pretty dang good job in this draft. They go out, they get LT Overton in the 4th round. They get Devin Moore, the corner out of Florida, who I absolutely love. I think he's going to be great. And then in the 3rd round, they go D-end again and get Jashawn Barham, who was the D-end out of Michigan. They address defense.
Yeah.
And if you can get to the quarterback this year, they still need help at the linebacker position. They really didn't address that need. But if you've got a great defensive line, I think you can have a mediocre linebacking core look great.
Yeah, probably helps a mediocre offense also.
I think that offense is going to be better than they get credit for this year.
Yeah.
I definitely do believe that. I'm a Dak Prescott believer.
Really?
I really am. I really am.
I've seen him not do it enough. I believe in him also that he won't get it done.
I think, again, you can have an above-average quarterback there throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, who may or may not sign his franchise tag. That's still an ongoing thing, which who knows if they'll ever get that worked out. He wants top 3 wide receiver money, and they're paying CeeDee Lamb top 3 wide receiver money. I don't think you can afford to pay both those guys, but
Yeah.
it's going to be a problem that will be addressed. And if you get them for one more year, you got to say, look, this is going to be our chance to go all in, and we're going to address the defense first because we know they got us covered on offense.
Yeah. Two things. You got anything else on the Cowboys, and then I'll inject something about them.
I'd love to hear your injection.
So I'm not a Cowboy fan. I lived in Dallas for 3 years, everybody. Used to listen to 105.3 The Fan, which is the flag station. Brad Sham does the play-by-play there. They do everything they do. That's the station that Jerry Jones got a little twisted up with one of the maybe the night guy or something. Gave him some crap last year. Remember that?
I do remember. I think I showed you that video, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, basically said, you watch it, boy, or I'll take your job. I'll make your job go away. Anyway, I used to love to listen to Cowboy fan, because to me they're unreasonable. They've got expectations this much when they really should be about that much.
Well, it's been their years for, 30 years now?
I know, and that's what's funny. So, two things. Number one, my oldest grandson is 12 years old, and he's about 5'7". He's a big kid, and he probably weighs 120, 125. CD Lamb isn't much bigger than my grandson. He's just a little guy, and I think that's what makes him so hard. He's hard to find, but he's fast, he's smart, he's got great hands, so they need him. And Dak needs to have a running game in order to be able to offset his weaknesses. I'll just leave it at that. Then the next thing I wanted to say, did you see any of the video of the Cowboys in their whatever you want to call it, clubhouse, where the people that were doing the draft, did you see that?
I did see a couple clips of them all together with the coaching staff in their draft room, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Why is Jerry still wearing a coat and a tie? Come on, Jerry. You're drafting players. Steven at least looked like he was going to go camping afterwards, He at least looked like an average Joe. All the coaches had their uniform on, so you could kind of tell. Why wouldn't Steven and Jerry put on a uniform like that? You know what I mean?
Phil,
it's not like we don't know Jerry Jones is the owner. He's pretty clear about who owns the team.
You're right. But I remember somebody telling me about maybe 8 months ago, hey, if you want to be the part, you got to dress the part. And Jerry Jones constantly dresses the part.
There's yes and no. There's a difference between that and at the moment, dress for the part. But the part was they were drafting football players.
That's a big deal.
It just seems to me like, I don't know. It struck me as odd. Not wrong, odd. That was the word, odd.
But, I mean, they knew they were going to be on TV. It was, again, big enough deal that me and you both saw videos of him dressed up. So, again, I don't see anything bad with it. Jerry Jones, as much as you want to call him a stupid owner, is the smartest businessman in football. There's a reason the Cowboys haven't won in so long and are still the most valuable franchise in sports.
In the world.
Some of those soccer clubs.
I think he's still, it's between him and the two top soccer clubs in the world. But yeah, no doubt about it. He's got a smart head on his shoulder. And knowing a little more about Dallas, I know some of the other business deals that he's put together, and you just go like, wow, that deal worked a lot better than everybody else thought it would, didn't it? Yeah.
But, you've talked about it with me, and I don't know if we've talked about it on here, but just what he's done for Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
And set up the soon-to-be PGA headquarters and built a district around the Cowboys Stadium. And look what that's become over the last, 15, 20 years? Yeah.
Yeah. And he told them what would happen when he does it, and they're like, yeah, sure. And he didn't miss it. He did it. I agree. No, he's fascinating. He's a real great study when it comes to a business person. Really a great study.
But I think the best thing he could do is find a staff that you trust, put all your faith in them, and you don't have a say in it. That's the biggest thing to me. And I get it. You own the team. You want to make the decisions. That's a kid's mindset.
Yeah.
You can't have your toys and always play with them too.
Yeah, you want the kind of, but you wonder if it's just more behind the scenes or out front. But you want the ownership like the Kansas City Chiefs, where Clark and the Hunt family are behind the scenes. They show up when they need to, but they don't make the decisions. They let Venables do, Veach. I'm sorry, not Venables. They let Brett Veach make all the decisions. It appears Brett Veach is in charge.
Right. You're 100% right. Phil, also, Cleveland Browns absolutely dominated the draft, and I'll go quickly over this, but they got a tackle of the future. They got two, I think, could be great wide receivers. They're going to need some development, but KC Concepcion and Denzel Boston could be great. They got a steal in Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who I told you I would love for the Patriots to go out and get, but the Browns get him in the middle of the second round, maybe half end of it. They get Austin Barber. They get probably the best center in this draft with Alabama's center. They went out, they got Justin Jefferson, the linebacker from Alabama. They're drafting SEC guys, which I know you're going to get into an argument with me about it, but I like. They go up against harder competition, no matter how much you want to say they don't. Alabama plays some of the best competition in the world. And then in the 6th round, they go out, they make the most fun pick of the draft, and they get Talon Green, Arkansas's quarterback, who is just an athletic freak, Phil. And even if he doesn't pan out, you can say you tried.
Yeah. That used to be the Cowboys' deal, is they'd go get the best athlete in the draft and then see if they could make that athlete into a better football player.
Mm-hmm.
But
and the thing
we'll see. Now, the Browns. Now, are the Browns the team that drafted the guy from Colorado last year? I think he plays quarterback, or is he the rap star? I can't remember if he's the rap star or the quarterback. Am I right?
He's a bit of both, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So does that create an additional quarterback controversy? What do they got? 7 guys on the roster as quarterback?
They've got 4 on a roster right now. It is Shedeur Sanders basically against Deshaun Watson, if I had to guess, for that starting role. I don't think they'll go Dylan Gabriel. They saw it last year. He's really not that guy, and I don't think they throw the reins to Talon Green immediately. But this quarterback controversy started, I don't know if you've heard about this, when one of the reporters for the Cleveland Browns said, I think Deshaun Watson should be starting. Young gal, and Shiloh Sanders took offense to this. Phil, he went to Twitter and he said, "Go make me go make a sandwich, Mary." The internet's PO'd about it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny.
He's saying she doesn't have a right to say that, or is he trying to make a I would say the internet's taking it the wrong way. He's just basically saying, "Come on, lady, get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about." Doesn't matter if it's female or male, is what I'm saying. He doesn't care. Just get out of here.
And I think that is the angle that he was going at. Regardless, shut up. I'm sorry, but there's so much entitlement from Shiloh Sanders. You got your shot in the league. You didn't make it. You're trying to get on a practice squad. You can't do it. Instead, you're sitting out and you're streaming yourself, going out in public and making these comments just to try to stay in the starlight. I absolutely hate it, Phil. And I think it's a problem with my generation, is they feel the need to post their opinion absolutely everywhere, when in all honesty, who cares?
Yeah, I don't. So write me in the don't care column.
And honestly, I don't either. But this is the thing, is he's going to say this is going to make trending news everywhere, and I guarantee you by tomorrow, Shiloh Sanders will be top 50 trending on Twitter because of this comment, and he will stay in the starlight.
For a couple more days anyway, till we get to the second round of the playoffs for hockey in the NFL.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
So are you done with your comments on the NFL?
I've got one more thing I want to talk about, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. Phil, I don't think anybody messed up as bad as the Arizona Cardinals.
They didn't have room for error.
No, they didn't. And I understand, you understand that you weren't going to get a chance at the top quarterback this year in Fernando Mendoza. And honestly, this upcoming draft class for quarterbacks is going to be better. Arch Manning's probably going to be in this draft class. Lenoris Sellers is probably going to be in this draft class. Dante Moore. So you take Jeremiah Love, which is stupid already when you have 3 other great running backs on roster, but we've talked about that. I love the pick in the second round, top of the second round, to go get an offensive guard. Perfect. And then in the third round, they just say, you know what? This premier pick, this great pick, basically a late second round pick because you're so early in the third, let's take Carson Beck. It's stupid. You didn't see the guy have that great of a year. Honestly, that team around him made him look better than he was at Miami. And you're bringing him into a quarterback room of Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, when you know that next year you're going to go get that guy. You know this is going to be a rebuilding year. I hate not going out and getting maybe a D-line prospect, maybe a linebacker, maybe a corner, maybe an offensive lineman, somebody you can develop for a year and have better. Not that you're immediately going to bench when you go out and you draft your franchise quarterback next year.
Yeah.
To me, it was stupid.
In the last year that the Cardinals were competitive, is the Warner Super Bowl year?
It was probably one of those Warner years. I'm trying to think. When they lost to Green Bay in the playoffs, that was probably the last one. And what year was that? 14?
I mean, Warner's been retired long enough to be in the Hall of Fame, so
That's saying something. Yeah. But again, I think it's an ownership problem, and I just don't think they found that coach to be that guy yet. That long-term fit.
Yeah, you know, St. Louis, poor St. Louis, they lost 2 NFL football teams, and but they're probably happy they lost one of them.
Yeah, you're right. And maybe it's a Missouri problem, but one thing they'll never lose is the Cardinals. The Cardinals I could never see moving. I'd see their hockey franchise moving before the Cardinals. That is the pride and soul of Missouri.
Oh, baseball? No.
Oh, yeah.
Baseball Cardinals will always be St. Louis.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. They made their home there, but Phil, that's everything I have. I'll let you take over for a minute now.
You've left a little bit of time, but not much.
Oh, come on, we're only 22 minutes in.
So I'm going to continue a little bit more on the draft because one of my comments I've made, whether it's here or not, I can't remember, but I know I've made it with you, and that is I believe that the networks, and that would be primarily the ABC network, which would be ESPN and sports, and then the CBS network. I believe that they have that their goal, it just appears to me, and I may be wrong, but it appears to me that they're trying to make the college game a 2-league college football game, the Big Ten and the SEC. And because the reason I say that is because the alignments that they've made with those to broadcast their games. So as a kid that's going to go to college, you want to play on television.
Right.
And so if you're going to play on television more, you're going to play on CBS and on in the SEC or the Big Ten. So I want to say that, to me, the blame for the problems with the NIL and a lot of the other problems that we're already experiencing with college football, and I would say a lessening of people's excitement over the college game. And I know you love college football. I don't anymore. I used to watch it every weekend, and I don't anymore. And I think it's because of this. And so here's my proof, or at least where I'm going with this. So in the draft, 257 athletes were drafted, Craig, in the NFL. 34%, or 1 out of 3, basically, came out of the SEC. One of every 3 players drafted was an SEC player. 1 out of every 4 player was drafted was a Big Ten player. So that means over 50% of the players, over 50%, came out of those 2 leagues.
Right.
So I guess I can stop talking. And then you got the Big 12. Who do you think had more players picked between the Big 12 and the ACC, Craig?
I would say the Big 12.
It was a tie.
Really?
They both had 38 players equal. And when you take away the new Big 12 schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, BYU, when you take those 4 schools out, The Big 12 left had 10 players go to the draft.
I believe it. I'm
Or
pretty
wait,
sure.
I'm wrong. Sorry, I'm wrong. I was wrong. 13 players. Yeah,
Okay. I mean,
13 players, and maybe it was 14. I think maybe I'm wrong again. I got it right the third time. 14 players out of the 38 were from what would be considered longer term Big 12 schools. So Texas Tech, they had 9 players drafted, Craig.
Yeah.
Alabama set a record with 10. They had 9. Texas Tech had 9 players. Texas A&M put 9 players in. So big deal. But TCU, Texas Tech, KU, K-State, as you said already, had 2 apiece. I don't remember. I think BYU had 3. I can't remember for sure. I didn't have them all written down. But anyway, that to me is a big thing. Without Arizona, Arizona State, BYU, and Utah, the Big 12 only has 10% of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to fix that. And I mean, starting at the top, at their commissioner, he talked when he came in about how they were going to change the dynamics. I don't see it happening. They better make some moves. I would say this, and this is just me from a broadcast position. Why don't the Big 12 start their own television network?
I mean, I think that would be smart on their part.
With the platforms like YouTube and things like that, you could do it easily.
I
Anyway.
agree. First off, I'm going to correct you real quick. Georgia in 2022 had the most players drafted in one class with 15. 5 of those were.
When I said it was Alabama's record, sorry, I didn't say that right. It was Alabama's all-time high.
But I mean, you're right. It's watered down football, and I don't know if it's the recruiting process that these teams are going to not be more competitive. I love to see what Colin Klein is going to do for this Kansas State team and do for the Big 12, in all honesty, because Kansas State's got a top 25 recruiting class right now for next year. That's exciting. That's something to celebrate if you're a fan. And if you're going to say, well, Big 12 football isn't that much worse than the SEC or the Big 10, I'm sorry, but you're flat out wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
You're wrong. You look at K-State versus Alabama in 2022 when the two teams faced off in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, it was borderline abuse.
Yeah, it was
45 to
steamroll.
20 was the final in that game. And Kansas State did never look like they had a chance to go out there and win it.
No, it was not very close. And the score did not prove how badly K-State got beaten.
Right. And maybe it's a Big 12 problem. You know, everybody thought Dion was going to come in and absolutely run the Big 12. And
That's
zero
how many
players
players
drafted.
from Colorado got drafted, Craig.
Right.
You can count them on my hand. I don't have any fingers up. Zero.
And that's Dion's selling point is I'm going to get you ready for the league. But he had no players drafted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, it's going to be interesting. Texas Tech, I think, is doing a phenomenal job of becoming the powerhouse team in the
I
Big
agree.
12. But, you know, you look at ongoing things with their team, they get a great transfer portal class. You have David Bailey just go number 2, which was your edge that you developed. That's a great selling point. You go out, you get one of the best transfer quarterbacks in the portal in Brandon Sorsby, and then you find out he's got a gambling problem. And he checks himself into rehab, and you don't even know if he's ever going to play college football again. So if you can't find a quarterback, well, your season's over. And that, to me, is a problem. And that's not problems you see happening with the SEC and the Big Ten all that often. Yeah, you're going to see a Georgia Bulldogs speed probably at least 4 players a season get some kind of ridiculous speeding ticket, but you've got to keep them out of trouble.
Maybe don't let them drive. You got to
Maybe.
walk.
Get them chauffeurs.
Yeah, you live on campus. You got to walk.
And the one thing that I would love to point out is nothing like this would ever happen under Nick Saban. I understand he's the greatest of all time, but he was also a great, maybe arguably the best, when it came to determining personalities and managing personalities.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you segued into that because that's on my notes. So it's like perfectly like we rehearsed this. And I know people are out there saying, well, you guys probably did. Not this part. And that is the character. The stats, we look at stats, we look at size and speed when we're drafting kids, but we're not looking at the upside, the potential. How much can this person grow? Or has he already maxed out. And then the other part is the character of the person. I'm a wrestler. Dan Gable, great wrestling coach, great wrestler himself, probably, top 5 all-time world champions from at least the United States. And he says wrestling is a sport, he says it's 80% mental, 20% physical. Well, I competed, and I would say most sports are 80% mental and 20% physical, maybe 70-30. So we're not talking about these players or these kids and how they contribute and affect the practice room. And I think that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. I talked about Mason Thomas when talking about the Kansas City Chiefs draft, and I wasn't high on the guy when I first saw it, and I went and looked at his tape. And the first play that is on his tape.
Sorry, had to grab something. Go ahead.
All right. The first play that is on his tape is him getting double teamed, fighting through a double team, and tracking down a running back after he broke off a 15-yard run. He never quit on that play, and that tells me everything you need to know about a guy's character to me.
Yeah, I agree. And, Dan Gable, they asked him, how did you reload year after year? Because I will tell you, at the University of Iowa, and I might be a little off on this, but I think I'm pretty close to accurate. We remember John Wooden and all the national championships he had in basketball at UCLA, but Gable had 10 in a row at Iowa. They won 10 times in a row. Then they lost 1 or 2 years, and then they'd come back and won 3 or 4 more. He had 21 Big Ten titles while he was the head coach there. And he recruited guys that took 3rd place. And the reason he took guys that took 3rd place because he said those guys know how to fight back and win. I want winners. We want tough guys. So we'll see. We'll see. So, and then the potential. I was talking to another guy I think's a pretty smart football guy. He's a Rams fan. And I asked him how the Rams did. And he said, we only had, 5 or 6 picks. But he thought they did well except for the quarterback. And I might agree with him on this, and that is that the Rams might have had the best draft that won't turn out to be the best because of that quarterback pick. I wonder if they didn't just disrupt their chemistry in their locker room.
I think they did, and you heard it from McVay if you listened over the next couple days, and they released everything. After the press conference, they asked McVay, well, what do you think of this pick? Well, I didn't know what was happening. You could tell he was a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to good ownership and good coaching. McVay has done everything in his power to prove that he can be trusted as a head coach. What more does he need to do?
Yeah, and again, you need a coach you need the system. I think that's what made the Chiefs such a great system was that the ownership allows Brett Veach and Andy to run the team, and they do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. I think that's important. Well, anything else to talk about on the NFL and the draft?
Not on the NFL, but while we're on topic of personality, Phil, the Kansas Jayhawks got themselves a stud in the number 1 player in the college basketball recruiting class, and that is Tyron Stokes out of Washington. I think the kid's great. I think the kid is a phenomenal athlete. He makes the game of basketball look easy. The guy can levitate. I think he's going to be the best pure athlete we've seen since Obi Toppin in the COVID year. My only problem is he's a kid. And I say that, and I get everybody's a kid, and you got to grow up at some point. But Phil, he was playing at Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks, California in 2025. Prior to his senior year, he got kicked out because of behavioral issues. He couldn't behave himself. He transfers to Washington. He looks phenomenal. He's not playing the same caliber of talent, which I don't think a lot of these ranking sites take into account the kind of talent they're playing. But again, he looks great. He looks like the quote-unquote number 1 player in the nation.
Yeah. But again, we saw that with last year's squad, and it didn't help KU do much of anything last year. So, again, I'm back to team playing. I think you get 5 players, 6 players that can play together. You get 5 or 6 other guys on the bench that play hard in practice to push those 5 or 6 players. That's how you make a great team.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but again, we're putting all of our faith as Kansas fans into this number one recruit. He's trending everywhere. Kansas is welcoming him. Lawrence wants him with open arms. They want him to come in and save the basketball program for Bill Self's last hurrah. And Phil, they're paying him $8 million. They're revenue sharing. And he is a kid that obviously can't behave himself, but we're going to reward him with $8 million and pray he doesn't mess up.
Yeah. And I will tell you this. There were quite a few conversations about this even before NIL was a dream. And that was the rift between why does KU basketball get so much more effort and winning tradition than KU football, and even put a little pressure on Roy Williams. And he came out and said, I've had this, the only thing I asked for and got in any kind of favoritism was I got a better parking place outside of Allen Fieldhouse every day. He said, otherwise I get the same amount of money as the head football coach, which that was from the University of Kansas, not from whatever it's called that pays him the big money. Mm-hmm. But there's a rift between KU football and basketball in terms of star power and attention. And, I've said to some higher donor people that are KU donors and said, I wish you guys liked football as much as you like basketball. And the answer back was, well, I like football. I said, not as much as basketball, because if you did, we'd have a better football program.
I think the problem more than anything is tradition. You start stacking winning season upon winning season and start getting better, and you're showing progress, and you're constantly one of the top teams. It's easy to snowball into that.
But my problem with KU, and you can go trace this back, it's their coaching problem at football. What's Self? Coach number 8?
Yeah.
In the history?
I think that's right.
Okay. And the game was started by the guy that started it was a KU coach. Think about that. The history of the program, Bill Self is number 8 in terms of head coaches. And I've been alive to see 4 of them. Ted Owens, Larry Brown, Roy Williams, and now Bill Self. So think about that. I'm 63 years old, and I've seen half of the coaches. Wow.
Man, that's the precedent that they are setting. Yeah. And that's not what is happening with KU football.
No. And I think their average coach, I want to say, is 4 years tenured. I think Don Fambro was there the longest. He was gone, came back. But I think overall he's one of the longest tenured football coaches, and he's one of the winningest. Anyway, so I'm a little down on KU basketball because of this, but I get it. They're playing the game that they got to play, meaning outside of the arena.
I 100% know what you're saying. And Phil, I think some of it is due to Kansas fans. I do, flat out. They're so quick to call for a coach to be fired after 2-3 years when they haven't even had their first recruiting class come all the way through college. Maybe that needs to be a look in the mirror moment and say, look, it's hard to do your job if we, the bosses, are looking at these coaches and saying, I want them gone immediately. Phil, if you were behind me every single day looking at what I do and saying, yeah, get out of here, you can't do that, you can't do that, my job would suck.
Or if you went home at night, imagine this: you go home at night and you get on the phone because you want to, do some brain dead activities and just read stuff, and you start seeing everybody saying, Craig should be fired, he's terrible, he sucks, get rid of that guy, he doesn't know what he's doing. And you see that all day and you're like, golly, why wasn't I a professional fisherman or something?
You're right. But Phil, this is your chance to buy high on Kansas. Talon Kinney, the 5-star point guard. Again, Tyron Stokes, the number 1 player in the nation. They've got 4 other 5-stars. I like their transfer portal. They're getting a couple guys that I think could be good. Corbin Allen might be decent. And then Christian Reeves is a 7-1 center that they're bringing in the transfer portal, which I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of. I mean, quick side note, you're bringing in David Atkins and you're keeping one of the centers, Paul, from last year. That gives you 3 centers, and then the center that you just promised to come in and get playing time is probably going to get buried on that bench and then hit the portal, which has never been a problem before until now. But this is your chance to buy in on this team, and I don't know if they're going to be top 10 in the nation. But I'll tell you what, Phil, I think this is going to be their best shot in a couple of years to win the Big 12 and send off Bill Self on a high note.
You think this is last year or maybe two more?
I think this is it.
You think this is last year?
I mean, he just went out, got the number one player in the nation. This was his last recruiting class, I think. I think this is going to be it.
Wow. So this is a text from my son-in-law, okay? He's a great, huge KU fan, all right? He went to KU. He loves it. Here's what he says. He sent me a text a couple weeks ago. He says, I got a talking point for your radio show. All right? So this is for you, Greg. He says, I'm going to read it. It says, Kansas will never have another player's jersey added to the rafters. I said, why? He goes, no one will ever be there long enough to earn a spot.
You're right. And you're 100% right. And I don't think that's only a Kansas problem. I think that's all of college basketball at this point.
Yeah, right. There might be an exception right now, and that might be, and I almost hate, this is literally a 4-letter word in my dictionary when it comes to sports. So it's hard for me to say this school. But you probably can figure it out, Cray. It's got 4 letters in the name.
Rip it off.
They're one of the blue bloods.
UCLA?
No. Worse.
Duke. Yeah.
Yeah. And they might be the exception right now.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I mean.
Okay. Well, and I also, one last thing on the college draft, just for those guys keeping score or keeping track, 0 players from Wichita State were drafted this year.
You're going to keep complaining until they get a football program.
I just think they're hurting their brand without it. Okay, real quick on the Kentucky Derby. We got maybe, a few minutes here. Any questions from me on the Kentucky Derby, Craig?
I'm excited to see what you have to take. Here's the thing. Whatever you say, I'm probably tailing this weekend. So I hope you're right.
All right. Well, so Friday, for those of you that are watching this and it's not Friday, the Kentucky Oaks ran on Friday. The Oaks is the female version, and that race, if you are watching it before Friday, 7:40 Central is when they'll post time there out of the gate for the Kentucky Oaks, and it's a big race. They don't have a marquee name this year like they had a couple of years ago, but it's still a big race. It's a Grade 1. It's a great stakes race, and it'll be part of the card on Friday. Now, the big day, Saturday, Kentucky Race Day, may be one of the most interesting races in a long time because of the horses are really stacked up. It's hard to pick a favorite, even though there are favorites. 2 horses have scratched. There's conversation that might even be another scratch before tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I say tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Friday morning. But we'll see. The 2 horses that scratched, one of mine, Cray, that I talked about that I would put on your undercard, Silent Tactic. They scratched him yesterday or Wednesday, and the reason is I think it's because he's got a cracked hoof, and they're I think that's right, but I read about it and I got something else. And then Full Effort also scratched. He's got a chip on his heel or something. So they've scratched 2 horses. So here's the big news on this Full Effort, though. He scratched, and that brings in Oselli from he was number 22, but since they've had two scratches, Great White comes in and takes Silent Tactics' place. So he'll go in at gate 13. Or post position, and then Oselli will come in at post position 20. And let me tell you about Oselli, Craig. He took 3rd in the Wood Memorial, which was an earlier qualifier for the Kentucky Derby, and it's not one of the big ones. So the big ones are the Arkansas Derby, the Florida Derby, and the Santa Anita. They get all the attention, okay? And the horses that win them, they get all the attention. So that's why Renegade is a 4-1 favorite going into the Kentucky Derby, because he won the Arkansas Derby. Okay, The other one is Commandment. He's a 6-1. That's as of Thursday, 6-1. He won the Florida Derby. All right. And then where's the guy that won? Pavlovian. No, Potente. Potente won the Santa Anita. And the thing is, Craig, those were 1.125 miles. The Kentucky Derby is 1.25 miles, so it's an additional eighth of a mile. So the way I look at it, and the Kentucky Derby has also got 20 horses. So you got a big field. I can't do that. My hands don't extend. You got a big field where a lot of these races, like the Arkansas Derby, the Santa Anita, and the Florida Derby, they might only have, I think the Florida Derby only had 6 horses. Okay? So the top 3 finishers, they just beat 50% of the other horses, right?
Right.
And I don't think the Florida Derby is that big a deal this year. I just don't. So I'm not as big on Commandment as everybody else is because of the field. It's only 6 horses. They're not banging around where you got 20 horses coming out of the gate in the Kentucky Derby. And that's a lot of horses to go on the track at one time. Can you visualize that? And then they've got to make 2 full turns. Okay, so they've got a long stretch. Then they go into the first turn, which is, a nice quarter turn. Then they come down the back, and then they got that last stretch. So the horses that can come off the rail and come off that last curve or turn and have the kick are the ones that usually win it. Okay? So when you watch Oselli, just everybody go do this. Go watch Oselli run in the Wood Memorial, and you're going to go, wow, look at that horse coming on at the end. He takes third, but it ain't by much. And you put on another eighth of a mile, and you're like, that horse is winning that race with another 8/10 of a mile.
So you're changing your favorite.
Well, Renegade is my favorite still, and he's a 4-1. He got a bad draw though. They call it the rail. He's the number 1 post, and my brother asked me. He goes like, well, how many people or how many horses have won out of the 1 post? And I go, 8 total. Well, what's all time? 9. So, or 10. So it's not that big a deal. It's just been a long time since anyone's won it out of the 1 hole. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's that big a deal. I think Renegade style, he goes to the back anyway. So I think they're going to take him out of the gate and then just let everybody else pass him, and he's going to run from behind anyway. Okay. So I still like Renegade, and he's a late breaker as well. So if you're going to take my advice, here's my 2 horses I would take for an exacta. Okay.
And would you box this or exact? Okay.
I'd box it, do an exacta box. So it's basically 4 bets, and you're going to go Renegade and Oselli, 1, 2, either direction. But I don't think Oselli wins it. But I don't know. I don't know. That's my gamble that I would advise you to take. The other horses you're going to hear a lot about are Albus. I don't think he's that good a horse. I just don't. And my other guy, Chief Wallaby, I think he's got a little bit of a hoof problem as well. And that's nothing. Renegade's got a little bit of a hoof problem. So I don't know what's going on if they got hoof problem in the
bad track or
I don't know. But it's an interesting race. It really is. And a lot of these horses, Further Ado, he's another horse that everybody's really, really high on. I see him as good, but I don't love him. If you're going to pick 3, my third horse, and I'm telling you to go with, I would prefer to bet on a horse that's a long shot than take the 2 that are locks. Because on a $2 ticket, you might get back 50 cents.
So who's your long shot then?
So if you're going to take a 3-pack, which would be a trifecta, Golden Tempo, he's 30-1 right now. And this will all change on race day. By Saturday post time, it'll all change. But it'll be similar. But right now, nobody knows anything about Oselli. And if you'll remember, a couple years ago, horse went off just like Oselli basically, got pulled into the race late, day before or so, wins it. Goes off like 90-1 at the gate and wins it. And man, if you put a $20 ticket on that, you got paid.
You're living the good life for at least a
Yeah.
month.
So then I'll close on this. So in the Kentucky Derby Saturday, 19 of the 20 horses have Secretariat's bloodline. And on Friday, the Oaks, all 14 horses have Secretariat's bloodline. Isn't that cool?
It's crazy.
They all come out of his daughters. So he's got a Terlinga. She produced a lot of great horses, and then Weekend Surprise. So those are two that were he sired them, and that bloodline continues through those two. So Weekend Surprise and Terlinga. I just like to say
looking at the
Terlinga.
pedigrees the other day, man. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
You get lost in it.
Yeah, you do. You really, really do. And what's really interesting, Craig, is I know more about Secretariat's bloodline and family tree than I know about my own family tree. I can go back to my great grandparents. Period. I can follow back. Like Stormcat. Like all I got to do is see Stormcat on the line, and I know, oh, that's in Secretariat's bloodline because Stormcat is out of Terlinga.
Man, it's gonna be a fun weekend of sports.
Yeah, it is. It is really is. We got playoff hockey. Philly won Wednesday night to win that series 4-2.
That was a great series. The Golden Knights went into double overtime that night too against the Mammoth to go up 3-2.
Yep. And I think everybody else is 3-2.
Yeah, same in the NBA playoffs right now too.
Yeah. I watched so that'd be Wednesday night. I watched Tampa and Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this. Neither one of those teams the winner of this team doesn't make it to past the next round.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. You can just watch them and see Vegas, Carolina, and lost my thoughts all of a sudden. Florida. Vegas, Florida, Carolina. Even though the Dallas Stars are down 3-2 and the Avs, just way more pressure on the net. I watched probably 10 minutes of the Tampa Bay and Montreal game last night, Wednesday night, and I think it went 10 minutes without a shot on goal. And the teams that I just mentioned, Carolina, Florida, Vegas, Dallas, and Colorado, way more pressure on the net, way more pressure on the goalie. And that's what wins hockey games is that goalie. That's got to be the most stressful job of any professional athlete we're looking at. Maybe, well, no, I was going to say maybe kicking the extra point to win the game in football or the field goal to win it.
Closer in baseball might be difficult.
Yeah, but think about you're getting bullets fired at you at 100 miles an hour all night long. Not to mention guys smacking you.
Right.
I don't know if there's a tougher job than being in the net in a hockey match. That's a tough job.
Yeah. Well, if you have the chance to watch the Oilers and Ducks, assuming that game, oh man, that series is potentially not over yet. We're recording this on Thursday. It's going up on Friday. So if that series is still going on, man, that's the most fun I've had watching hockey all year. And maybe it's because I'm a casual, but it's offense.
Yeah.
Man, it's electric.
Yeah, no, that's what makes playoff hockey so much more interesting than the regular season. It's just they're firing away. They got to win 4 games.
Right.
And it's such an earned.
It is. Again, playoff hockey, playoff NBA basketball, and then the Royals taking on the Mariners this weekend. Great weekend for sports. But Phil, that's going to do it for time right here, Sports Talking on SWKS Radio. Thank you for listening.